Hi guys, I'm Anita and I'm back with another video, and as said in my 2018 goals for the channel, I want to go back and do monthly wrap-ups. So I hope this won't be too long, but I just feel like it works better for me this way, and I will start out by sharing with you my stats for January. Yeah, so let's get into it. First of all, I ended up reading a total of 11 books. Of those 11 books, I read 3,660 pages, and it averages to 333 pages per book. The length of the different books that I read 7 regular novels, and I read 2 novellas, 1 omnibus book, and 1 graphic novel. And the age group are as follows. I read 3 young adult novels, and then I read 8 adult novels. As for formatting wise, I read 5 audios, 2 ebooks, 2 trade paperbacks, 1 graphic novel, and 1 hardback. And the genres, they were divided as this. I read 6 fantasy novels, which is not super surprising to me. Then I read 2 contemporaries, 1 sci-fi novel, 1 thriller mystery, and 1 urban fantasy book. And the genre author was very evenly split. I read 5 books by male authors and 6 books by female authors. And for star rating, I didn't read any terrible books. I had all of my books are rated between 3 and 5 stars, and they go as follows. 2 of them were 3-star books, 2 of them were 3.5-star books, 4 of them were 4-star books, and 3 of them were 5-star books. So I'm off to a really good start for the reading of 2018, I think. And yeah, those were my sort of stats. I'm gonna try and do something differently, where I'm talking about the books in my preferential order, so from the lowest rated book to the highest rated book, in that order, instead of doing them in a reading order, just because then we'll always end up on a high note, no matter which month we're in. But let's get into the actual books. So yeah, first up, the first book that I'm going to talk about today is Rage by Stephen King, or Richard Bachman. This is one of his Bachman novels that he's writing on a pseudonym name. And this book follows Charlie Decker, who's been through a lot already over the years. And one day he's sort of just had enough, and he ends up killing a teacher and taking his classmates hostage. And in the course of the book, you get to know, he tells the classmates why he's doing this, and you see back in flashbacks what has happened to him up over the course of his life already. And overall, it was a really solid story. It was good. It was written in a really different way compared to usual Stephen King style. I mean, you could tell when you were reading it that it was Stephen King writing the characters, the way he characterizes his characters, and you really get a vivid feeling of them as a person. But it was not divided the same way that usual Stephen King novels are, with huge chapters that have smaller chapters inside. But the way that we went back and forth in time, with Charlie explaining his background, sort of his relationship with his parents, some of the things he went through with them, you definitely got a really good sense of who he was as a person. My biggest issue was that I never really liked Charlie, no matter what he was telling me. Like, it was horrible what was happening to him, but I didn't like him as a person, the characteristics that he showed over the book. And that was probably my main issue with this book. And yeah, it's so far my least favorite Stephen King book that I've read, but I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. The next book I'm going to talk about today is Gigarella by Ashley Poston. Yeah, this is a Cinderella retelling that's set in this sort of contemporary world, and we're following this girl called Ella, who is a bit of a geek girl. Actually, she loves all the geeky, nerdy stuff, and as well as her dad, he was an inventor of this really big convention, sci-fi convention. So everything she wants to do is to being part of that convention again, even though she's not allowed to go for her stepmother. And after his death, she's not been allowed to go to these things because of her stepmother has put a stop to that. But this is sort of the thing that she wants the most. So she's trying to find a way to join in on the cosplay competition that will give her this cosplay competition that will give her a pass to this other convention that is even bigger, where she could meet an actor in, I think it's a Star Trek sort of setup. And we also follow Damien's perspective, who is an actor who's one of those very famous teen actors who's part of this science fiction movie universe. I believe it's Star Trek, but I actually don't remember exactly. And Damien used to... Darian, sorry, he's called Darian. Darian used to be really into these Comic Cons, but since becoming famous, he thinks it's a little more annoying. He has to do meet and greets. He has to do signings and sort of feeling like he's a little awkward and on the spotlight and stuff, and he can't really be himself. I really enjoyed the geekiness of this book. It was fun to see her being super excited about this convention, and just how everyone who were part of this convention thing, even though they may have been part of different sort of fandoms, they were all there for each other when someone was bitching about a certain fandom. All of them, they knew that there was nothing wrong with being part of a big fandom. They were all geeks, and so they were uniting together to make sure that everyone were enjoying the time. And that was something I really found interesting. And I really enjoyed the two main characters. I felt like they were really good characters to follow. I enjoyed both of their perspectives. We got different sorts of things that happened to them over life. But what I realized though over the book, that I'm really sick and tired of Cinderella retellings. I didn't actually think of that when I started it, but I just don't care about evil stepsisters, evil stepmoms. I don't want that. No, it's been too much, and that annoyed me a lot more than I thought it would be, so that's why I end up on 3 stars for this book. The next book I'm going to talk about is YearOne by Nora Roberts. This I listened to in audio, and it's the first book in the Chronicles of the One. This book starts out on New Year's Eve, when suddenly someone catches a disease, and this spreads really quickly, and within a couple of weeks, the world popularity has just dropped drastically, and the majority of those people who are surviving are called the Uncannies, and Uncannies are people who can do some sort of magical powers. There are some humans part of this that has no magical abilities, but the majority of the characters, the people that are left, are Uncannies. And so we follow multiple different perspectives over this book, and seeing how they are trying to work together and come together to fight, to sort of build up a new society, to sort of figuring out a way of getting by things in day-to-day life. And then there are other people who are trying to take control of the city and taking advantage of the fact that people, they can use their magical power and be in complete control over people. And that's something, obviously, that they're trying to work against the good people, if you will. And while I enjoyed the story and the setup and sort of that part of it, I think there were way too many different perspectives to follow. I didn't have a good sense of when I was following who, and I don't know if that was the audio narration or the way it was written, that I didn't know when it was changing perspectives very well. They didn't say in the beginning of chapters, so it was like, now we're in a new chapter, and then started talking about this, and it took me forever to figure out we were actually following new characters, because they have very much the same sort of voices no matter which point of view we were following. So I don't know if that was the audio's fault or if that's just the way it was written. But I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. I'm not sure if I'm going to continue this series, but we'll see. Maybe if it gets to be part of a library book where I can read it and not listen to it like an ebook or something, then I'll maybe consider reading it. But I'm not sure as of yet. The next book I'm going to talk about today is Animal Farm by George Orwell. This is a short little book about the animals of Animal Farm. One day, the animals decide that they don't want the human to be part of the farm any longer, so they decide to kill him off, and then the animals will take over the farm and control it and do everything like and they want every animal to be equal, and everyone has, no matter the size, has just as much to say as the other animals. And their most important thing to remember was 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. That was sort of the saying that they had. But as things go along, you notice how things changes. Some animals are more power thirsty than others and will go to great lengths to sort of build to change things so that they are more important than the other animals are, and doing it so that the other animals doesn't actually notice it at first hand. And that is such an interesting take on this, because no matter how you want everyone to be equal, there will always be something wanting more power and something wanting to control other people. And so that is a really good take on. I really enjoy George Orwell's writing style. He's really good at capturing the reader's attention and giving his political views and being a little provocative with the way that he's thinking of the world situation and stuff. I didn't enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed 1984, and because of that I give this one 3.5 out of 5 stars, but I really highly recommend the book nonetheless, and think that it's a read that everyone should check out, even though I only give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The next book on my list is The Walking Dead Volume 2, Miles Behind Us, by Robert Kirkman and Charlie Adlard and Cliff Rathburn, who are the illustrators, I think. This obviously continues after the first volume, pretty much just continues from where it left off, and you follow these people as they're trying to seek shelter for somewhere where there's not filled with zombies. Their current habitat were invaded by zombies, and they had to seek shelter somewhere else. And so them trying to find somewhere they can be without being eaten by zombies, basically. It's a really fun, quick read, and all of the illustrations are in black and white, which is something that's pretty interesting with graphic novels. It's very normal in manga, but not so much in graphic novels. They are always colored, I feel like. But I enjoyed it. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first volume, but I did enjoy it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan. I actually listened to the audio of this, but now I have a physical copy of it, so I decided to use that. This book follows Royce and Hadrian, who are sort of mercenaries, rogue people, thieves, whatnot, and one day they find themselves on the run because they've been framed for killing the king, and so obviously that leaves them in a bad place. I really enjoyed the relationship between Royce and Hadrian. It was such a fun friendship that they had, and they had that dialogue between them, and they were so humorous. And even though you didn't actually see it from their perspective exactly, I still got a really good feeling of their friendship and relationship in this one already. And I feel like the second novel especially was a lot more faster paced than the first, and definitely left me wanting to read the next book very quickly. But I actually think I want to reread this, because I think there was something in the first part of this I missed out a little bit on when I was listening to the audio. I don't know if it was the narrator's fault or my fault, but there were some moments that I was like, huh, when I felt like I missed out on something. So I want to reread this before I get into the next one. That's also why I got this physical copy. But it was a lot of fun reading it nonetheless, and I hope to get to the next one really soon. And so I gave this one 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was River of Teeth by Sarah Gailey. This is a first book, I think, in a duology, and it's a sort of a novella story. This is a book set in an alternative history setting where like if the Americans had decided to import hippos to the marshlands in the US, in Louisiana and along the Mississippi River. A lot of these hippos has gone feral and are really terrible and biting and flooding over the rivers around. But some people are using hippos as traveling measures so that it's easier to get around because they can swim and horses can't. Because the majority of the areas that we're in are swamps and sort of like that. So in this story we follow Houndstooth, who used to breed hippos, loved his job until one day someone burned his ranch down to the ground, so he's left with nothing, all of his fortune was gone. And so he decides to seek revenge on whoever did this when he sees there's an opportunity to do so. And so this is actually this Haiti sort of caper story that it changes into because of his vengeance. I really loved the characters in this. There was such a big variety of characters in both concerning sexuality and cultural backgrounds and gender and all of that. There was so many great things in this book and I loved it. I was here for the characters, especially Houndstooth. He was really a great main character to follow and I really enjoyed his storyline. And I cannot wait to get into the next book. It had a pretty abrupt ending and I would really like to see where this one goes in the next volume. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read was Dragon Keeper by Robin Hobb. This is the first book set in the Rainwild Chronicles, but it's the 4th series set in the realm of the Elderlings. So you have to read the Farseer trilogy, the Liveship Traders trilogy, and the Tawny Man trilogy before you get to this. Actually, I guess at this point you could actually read the Liveship Traders first and then go immediately into the Rainwild Chronicles if you want to. But I don't know if in the later books there are gonna be some references to the Farseer universe as well. I'm not sure of that, but definitely I recommend starting from the beginning of these and read all of the books because you get so many things from these books. I'm not gonna get a lot into the details of the book except that we get to know a lot of new characters and we get to learn a lot more about the dragons in this one, and you get to see characters from Liveship Traders, which was one of my favorite moments in this. I was so happy when I saw people from the Liveship Traders showing up in this book. It was such an amazing experiment, but you could definitely tell with this book that it was a build-up to the next, and that at first Robin Hobb had written this book as the book 1 and 2 as one giant book, and that the publishers decided to split it, and so it didn't really have a real closure. So you really want to get into the next books as soon as you can because of how it ended. But that being said, I loved it. I loved it a lot more than I thought I would because I didn't know what to expect when going into this, but I knew Robin Hobb is a great writer, so it's probably beautifully written. But I didn't know what to make of the characters. But I ended up enjoying the new characters we were introduced to, especially some of them. There was 2 of the characters I really hated, but I really enjoyed Elise and I forgot the other girl's name, but I really enjoyed those 2 perspectives a lot. And so I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm definitely intrigued to see what's going on in the next couple of books in this series. The next book that I read was Crimson Frost by Jennifer Estep, which is book 4 set in the Mythos Academy series, which is a series that follows Gwen Frost, who is a gypsy, and her powers, the powers that she has as a gypsy is that she can sense with a touch of someone's personal item, she can know all of his secrets if she touches them, or she can touch another person as well and she know all of the secrets. So not all of the people like that trait because they would like to have secrets and stuff. But she goes to Mythos Academy, which is a place where all of these different warriors from mythologies are going. There are Spartans, Amazons, Valkyries, and also gypsies as she is. And I think if you enjoy Vampire Academy, you'd really love this series. I'm not even unsure about that. I know that because it has some similarities in the characters, in the way that it's set in a boarding school and stuff. But all of these warriors, they go to Mythos Academy and they're training to sort of being able to fight Reapers of Chaos, whose sole purpose is to free Loki from imprisonment. Yeah, because he's the trickster and will start Ragnarok, and no one really wants that, except the Reapers of Chaos. In this one, we follow Gwen as she's being accused of something, have done something that she hasn't really done, so she's trial for this, and at worst case, she will be, if she is accused, it will be death penalty. Best case scenario, she will be Belle from the Mythos Academy if she's convicted. What I really enjoy about this is the characters, their friendships, and how they are there for Gwen, even though she's going through this and so many people are doubting her. They are always there for her, they believe in her, they don't question her regarding this whole thing. And then there was this specific ending that I did not think that the author would do, and that made this bump up to a 5 stars because I was not expecting that at all. I really, really enjoyed the ending. It was quite a mind-boggling ending to me, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing how this will end up in the coming books. I'm really close to the finish line now, and I really enjoyed it. As I said, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was The Haiti Gift by Angie Thomas. This is one of the most popular contemporary novels of 2017, and with good reason. I really enjoyed this book. It follows Star, who witnesses her best friend from childhood, Khalil, being shot by the police, and sort of her dealing with the aftermath of that. And then she's having these 2 lives where she's both going to a private school and where she goes with a lot of posh white people, and then but she lives in the suburbs in the ghetto and has that sort of life and friends from there, and the different sort of dynamics she has with her friends is really interesting, and I love the family dynamics, and I really enjoyed. There were so many different things and textures, layers to this story that I really enjoyed. It was not just about the trial and what she was going through with Khalil being murdered and all of that, but it was so much more than that, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I have a full spoiler-free review about this book up on my channel of this book, but if you want to see more thoughts about this book, I rated this 5 stars, so definitely go and check that out if you're interested, and if you have not read it, or if you want to read it, or if you have read it and you want to hear my thoughts, then definitely go and check that video out. We're at the final book now, and I've almost been filming for 30 minutes. The final book that I read this month was Guards by Terry Pratchett. This is the first book of the City Watch book series, the Ankh-Morpork City Watch, if I'm being correct, and it is the 8th book set in the Discworld series. As I said, we're back in Ankh-Morpork again, and we're following the Night Watch of Ankh-Morpork. And first and foremost, we're following the point of view of Carrot. Carrot has been brought up with the giants underground, and one day he is sent by his parents to being part of the City Watch, the Night Watch in Ankh-Morpork. And so this is sort of his viewpoint of how it is as being City Watch and coming into things. He's very eager to please and wants to do everything right. So he reads through all of the laws and just wants to memorize it all so that he can do well as the City Watch, as part of the City Watch. And it doesn't take long before he figures out there's something wrong in Ankh-Morpork. Dragons are suddenly appearing out of nowhere, and dragons are not part of the Discworld. So how did they end up coming, and who has resurrected them from wherever they were, and sort of that. And so this is sort of them trying to getting to the bottom of that, and that was so much fun being part of that. Being part of that book. I just loved this book so much. It was such a fun ride, and I really enjoyed Carrot's perspective. And then there was some scenes that had me laughing numerous times, and this book is definitely up there with Mort and as my favorite Discworld book so far in this whole universe. But there's a long way to go, so I don't know how that will change in the future, but I definitely really loved this, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. So yeah, I really got off to a good start with this month's reading. I hope you stuck along to the end, because I ended up with my favorite books. And definitely let me know in comments down below if you've read any of the books and what you thought of them. Are you planning on picking any of them up and all of that? If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video very, very soon. Goodbye!